Welcome back, everybody, to Too Much Popcorn, the movie review podcast where Jimmy and I watch a movie and then sit down and we talk about the highs and the lows of that movie, the things we liked, the things we didn't like. This week, we had a listener of the podcast write into us. Well, I guess it was last week they wrote in and they said, hey, you guys should watch the hit 1976 movie Murder by Death. It's 10 times funnier than the movie Clue. You know, that movie, Clue. The good one.
The monolith.
And boy, and boy, was this movie a hit. It was like getting hit in the nuts multiple times by all the jokes.
It physically made me in pain.
There was a point where the only solution I could think of to this movie was that all of these characters were in hell because I was also in hell watching this movie.
It honestly, I'm going to preface, we spoil this entire thing this episode, and keep listening, okay?
Yeah.
That's how that's how I'm going to preface this.
Jimmy, I'm almost tempted. Should we do the recommendation right now and just get that out of the way instead of saving it for the end? Should we tell people whether they should watch or not watch this movie?
Is that... Well, no, because then they'll stop listening to the episode. Like, our final thing, you have to either skip to the end to listen to or listen to the whole episode. But we're not going to say it.
That's true.
Right now. That's the format.
Yeah.
That's the format.
That's true.
You can't mess with the format.
This could very well be that, I just rip this movie apart for the next hour, and then at the end I'm like, yeah, but you know what? You should watch it. And I might. You'll have to see, folks.
Watch us just fucking literally 180. Someone's mind will literally just shatter out the other side of their skull. So here we are, 1976, Murder by Death. It's a comedy. It's a murder mystery whodunit.
It's a weird...
A lot of things.
Expectation subversion, fantastical reality movie where things don't make sense, and so why should I even care about the plot when you can literally just take a room and move it to another room? Folks, I need to get this out of the way. Alec Guinness is a fucking monster and an idiot. Because this man has been quoted multiple times saying that he hated Star Wars. He hated being in Star Wars.
Above it? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
He felt like he was just like, this film is beneath me, Alec Guinness.
He said that he hated that movie more than any other movie he's ever worked on. He said that he's worked on better productions, things that he feels, way better about. And somehow he hated Star Wars more than this movie. Ugh.
Okay, let's be real though. If Alec Guinness's full, essentially like tenure in the Star Wars film canon is that he had to hang out in the desert for a shooting schedule, I possibly would also say, hey, fuck that movie. I had to hang out in the desert for 2 months, And then finally they put me in a spaceship and I get killed?
Yeah.
Spoiler.
I'd prefer to be wandering around set pretending to be blind and looking super dumb and over dramatizing it and not like Alec Guinness. Have you ever actually seen a blind person? Because they don't do what you were doing in this movie.
Do you think I wonder when that quote is from. Was it immediately after? Like, were both of these 76? Was Star Wars 76?
As always, folks, Jimmy and I don't do any
research.
No research. No research.
But the quote is real. It has to be, because we both knew that Alec Guinness hated Star Wars. And you, dear listener, you know Alec Guinness hates Star Wars. He fucking is known for hating Star Wars. And if he doesn't, if this was a false thing that is not true, then hey, we didn't look it up.
Yeah.
For legitimate reasons.
No.
And now we don't have the time.
You know what? Star Wars A New Hope, 77. This movie, before This movie was
So there's no possibility that an interviewer would have been like, "Oh, what like worst film to be on?" He's like, "Star Wars, hands down. I fucking love the set of Murder by Death. I got free cakes every day."
Remember my pivotal character in which I really just revolutionized acting? This is my voice, Alec Guinness.
It's the start in terms of Alec Guinness being, I guess, the driving force for the first half of, or at least 45 minutes of the film. And boy, howdy, folks, is it the worst pacing that I've seen in quite a while, where I honestly kind of just closed my eyes and I thought, nothing's happening. I'm taking it in. I'm taking in the dialogue. It's not that well written, so at least I get to hear Peter Falk really ham it up as just San Francisco, like really a good character, Peter Falk. Possibly the only one of 3 characters that Aaron and I cared about in this entire film. But to have Alec Guinness, who he is fantastic. He's a good actor, but if the joke was that he was not actually blind and therefore wouldn't know how a blind person actually acts, is that the joke? Because the whole time you're supposed to be like, oh, the tip-off is that blind people don't act this way, so he's a good actor.
I'm starting to wonder, because we've now watched a movie where, before I had a very high opinion of Alec Guinness, and I was like, hey, he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he might have hated Star Wars, but he still did a really good job in that role. He's a good actor. And then I watched this movie and I'm like, no, he's a trash actor. And just in the same where I saw Peter Cushing in Star Wars, and I'm like, whoa, Grand Moff Tarkin, this guy's a good actor. He's really selling it. And then you watch any of the Dracula movies. You watch the Sherlock Holmes, Hound of the Baskervilles. Any of the movies that he was in before Star Wars, and you're like, oh, the
Journey
Mummy.
To the Center of the Earth.
The Mummy.
No, Journey to the Center. Remember? He's got the bow and arrow.
And he shoots the...
Peter Cushing.
Yeah. And again, a movie where I had a high opinion of an actor due to Star Wars, and then I watched their other films and said, oh, wait, maybe they're a trash actor.
Was New Hope truly like a lightning in the bottle? Like, suddenly you're a good actor now if you're in New Hope. It doesn't even matter if you're a fish person or not.
If you watched A New Hope before any of these other films, you would think, wow, they really got a good cast of high-level actors. But I think they really just were scraping the bottom of the barrel. They're like, all right, let's get
a fluke.
Yeah, Alec Guinness, he needs money after Murder by Death. Peter Cushing needs money. And somehow those actors were like, we hate this movie, but we're gonna put it in.
It's crazy because Peter Cushing is so good in New Hope.
Yeah.
He is terrifying in that role. And yeah, literally every other film we've watched with Peter Cushing, he's just a goofball, just absolutely garbage. And so, okay, back to the film at hand, Murder by Death.
Yes.
Again, full cast of characters. You got the Peters, you got Falk, you got Sellers. Oh boy, I'm not going to touch Sellers right now. I'm going to leave that one out here.
Yeah.
I just sort of started, you lump in the Peters. They're there. You got David Niven. You got James Cromwell's in here, and that was fun to be like, look at this young, handsome James Cromwell.
Yeah.
He actually looks like he's supposed to be in a Monty Python.
Oh, absolutely.
Troupe.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was like, is he in Monty Python? And then I'm like, no, it's just James Cromwell. So young, he looks like a doofy kind of surfer, wears netting to bed, just kind of dude. There's a lot of other people. They're pulling the tropes. You've got your Hercule Poirot, Belgian Frenchman, whatever. You've got your San Francisco American, doesn't play by the rules, hard-boiled detective, pulp cop. You've got your British Sherlock Holmesian sort of guy. You've got all the tropes, and it's not all of them. There's a Chinese detective. Well, again, that's Peter Sellers.
He's from I can't. Again, no research was done. I can't remember the name, but there is a like 1930s San Francisco based Japanese Chinese detective.
Oh, like an actual like pulp. It is that
he's based off of. Yeah.
is he actually a white guy though?
No,
In that original,
well,
it's like actually a Chinese person
again, folks, no research, so I can't say actors who portrayed him on film, but I'm pretty sure the written in book was like he was Asian American.
Oh, if there were actually films before this one portraying that, they were definitely white dudes.
Yeah,
too, 100%.
But it would be whack if the book was like, "Hey, he's a white man who's portraying an Asian American." You're like, "What?"
Yeah, here's that would be wild.
Yeah,
I might have to actually look that up. But you're saying it's a trope. It's a real character. They're basing this.
Yeah,
Peter Sellers.
Yeah, all of the characters in this film seem to have been based off of some type of detective from literature. And I believe we had
significant others or children.
Yeah, and I believe that we had the older lady actress.
Oh, like a Marple.
Or Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie's Marple.
Yeah. And so, you got them all here.
So you had two Agatha Christie? You had Poirot and Marple?
I guess.
Man, it's fucking writing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Weird. And folks, I truly think that is just the failure of this movie was they wrote it and then just said, that's it. We made the movie. And then it was just trash. All of the jokes were trash. All of the concepts were trash. And the whole whodunit aspect wasn't even there. It was like they got to the end and they were like, oh, wait, we forgot to do a whole whodunit thing. And we're going to do that at two pivotal scenes in the movie where, one, we explain everybody's motivation without any realization of how we got that evidence. And then we're going to do a reveal at the very end where we just blatantly call out things. And I almost want to say that was them doing some form of satire where they were like, hey, all of these books and, mystery movies, mystery novels, they come to the end at the end and they pull out an amazing conclusion that you would never see. But it wasn't satire as much as it was just poor writing coming to a conclusion.
Okay, I like how you've set this up. We're going to cycle back to jokes real quick because, or maybe not quick, because for this to be, quote, 10 times funnier than Clue. Hey, I haven't seen Clue in a while. Maybe it's not as funny as I remember, but I distinctly have a very fondness to Clue in terms of actually making me guffaw, laugh out loud, maybe do a little chortle once in a while. But you know what movie actively every joke I just sort of didn't laugh at? This one specifically.
I tried.
You mentioned when we were watching it, Aaron, there's a failing in terms of the writing where if a joke is only a subversion of a trope to try and but it's still a joke. It's still written as a joke because it's trying to get a laugh. And if it was a subversion with a punchline, then maybe it could be funny, but they just stopped at subverting the thing and then they leave you to be like, this is the thinking man's movie. You have to really think about the funny or else it will go over your stupid head. And I'm like, actually, no, because I know all the tropes that you're trying to subvert and I know what you're doing in the film and it's still not funny to me.
Yes.
And is my brain broken for this? I believe no. I think it actually fully, objectively was not funny. Objectively.
Not even objective. Folks, expectation subversion is one of my favorite comedic bits. I love it. Go and listen to our podcast. I do it too often. But I did it less often.
It's a trap.
I did it less often than this movie because there is definitely a point where they do 5 expectation subversions in a row. And it got to the point where they set up the 5th one, which is the, female actress character pushing in an older female actress character in a wheelchair. And everybody's
Right.
like, oh, it's the female detective and her nurse. And so you expect the female detective to be the person in the wheelchair. And then you're like, and they set it all up where she's like, oh, I'm the one who's the female detective, and the person in the wheelchair is the nurse. And you're supposed to be like, oh, expectation subversion. I did not see this coming. But you've done you've done 4. And this is the
There
fifth.
were 4 back to back to back to back to back.
And I knew it was coming. Where it was just when you're calling jokes in a movie, that's not fun. So anyway, and I told Jimmy, I said, no, you can't do expectation subversion like this. And let's go with number 1. Number 1, when frickin' Alec Guinness, the blind butler, takes them to their room and he goes, I've made the fire. And I said to Jimmy before he opened the door, I said, the fire's on the bed. And
Yes, it was literally, this is a film neither Aaron, have you seen this movie before?
never. And
I had not seen this movie before. The door is closed. They're outside of the room. Aaron says the fire's on the bed. And then they open the door and the shot is of a fire on the bed. And I'm like, oh.
And folks,
okay.
I got nothing to prove to you by saying I called this joke. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so good at writing. The fire could have been anywhere. It could have been on the floor. But I knew that the way this movie was going.
Yes. And we were maybe only 20 to 30 minutes at that point, like 15, 20 minutes in. So we're looking for laughs at that point. That's what conjured that image for you, is because I do the same thing. Is I try to call a joke sometimes. I'm like, oh, it would be so funny if this happened. And then something different happens. I'm like, oh, that's fun. But in this one, you were just like, we were trying to see what was funny by the time this part of the movie was happening, which is a bad sign, folks. I'm just letting you know. Again, we're maybe about the time in the movie if you're concurrently watching the movie.
Yeah. This is the
fire
audio
on the bed
narrative.
shows up about now. We're not actually watching, so if we're off, fuck it. I was impressed because I was like, you called it specifically exactly where it was, and we were like, well, it's funnier now because you knew exactly where it would be because of how predictable this movie became.
Yeah.
In terms of it consistently being like, we don't really have a joke here, so let's have Peter Falk, let's have Sam Diamond point his gun at somebody, and just that's where the movie ends up. And the subversion is they keep saying nobody split up, and then they keep splitting up. You know, it's the characters doing things that they're saying they shouldn't be doing, which is another common trope you're expecting in a whodunit. And so there's no subversion there because they just did it. And then the movie, into concepts here, starts pulling out Truman Capote, the guy behind the curtain, behind all the paintings, behind the moose head, is literally fucking with the house in a way that doesn't actually make sense. And so from a movie making perspective, I liked it because they're like, oh, you can close the door, you do a cut, and then you open the door again, and then there's the actual set with all the people in there. And I'm like, okay, that's fun the first time. It was fun one time when they leave the dining room and then they come back into the dining room. It's empty and they say, what the heck, that's so crazy. And Truman Capote's like, actually, it's not that crazy if you're a little smart like me, a little smart guy like me, Truman Capote. And then they leave, and then they wait 10 seconds for some reason, and then they come back in, and of course the room is the room again. But for it to physically happen in reality, there is a logistical part of my brain that cannot, it gets lodged. There's like a pencil stuck in there, and the gears are like, and I'm like, okay, they don't even do that fast. You can feel everything moving when you're going in the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland or whatever. And this is they've conjured magic. Truman Capote figured out magic in this movie because, like Aaron said, they have to be in hell. They drove to hell, and then at the end of the movie, they're driving away from hell like, well, that sucked. God, oh, fuck. That was awful. I hated hell.
Yeah. A la Silent Hill, where they, go through and end up in a foggy world. In this movie, they drive through fog, and I'm like, Silent Hill, and then they're leaving. And you never actually see them leaving, so I think they're just trapped in the fog. But yeah, Jimmy's got a point where they start introducing like just these fantastical concepts of rooms that can change so that when you open a door, it's a different room there. Or there's a point where they introduce a cook, and then later it's revealed that the cook, who is a human actress, was a mannequin. And there's no reason for it. Or there's no like explanation of how that mannequin was so lifelike, and there's not even like makeup on this person such that or movements of this person, this actress, such that you're looking at her and saying there's something off about her. Possibly she's a mannequin, or
no, it's just that she can't speak or hear.
Yeah, and so it's like at this point, yes, anything is possible. If you have a mannequin, literally anything is possible. You're either in Silent Hill, or you're in hell, or you're in a fantasy Narnia-esque realm. And it's like, at that point, why do I care about the murder? Because it literally could have been ghosts. It could.
Well, okay. The real question here is, though, the moving rooms is weird, right?
Yes.
And never explained, right?
All they said was that he's got it on some kind of system that moves silently and very fast.
So is this backed up by the fact that Truman Capote's character shows up in a blinding disco array of color and then also leaves the room through a machine, sort of like an ejectocito situation? Is that he has control of this house with the 3 buttons on his chair? Is that what we're meant to believe as far as anything is possible? Because we've seen that scene where he shows up with the disco entrance?
I believe so, and I think that's what the first 15 minutes of this movie is, where, you see a cloaked figure push a statue onto the people, or you have a strange corridor that's making dog sounds, and Alec Guinness's character is like, oh, that's the cat. And you're like, again, expectation subversion, not funny. Or you have these paintings where the eyes move out and then a person's eyes follow them. And I think that's the movie trying to like establish that Truman Capote's character has, full, range and motion. And he set up this elaborate, again, Haunted Mansion-esque place where he has full control and can do whatever he wants. But they could have done a better job of selling that. Like, there's a point where, 2 of the characters are shown to their room and they see a mechanical mouse that turns out to be a real mouse. Again, expectation subversion. Not funny. That was number 2 at that point. And then
I did like, wait. He picks it up. And
it was 100%.
It is a prop mouse.
Yeah.
So good. Very much a prop mouse. And then the line is like, it was real after all. And he throws it or whatever. But very funny. Yes, continue.
Oh, yeah, and then the room has these, like, candy cane webs or, sugar cane whatever webs. And so it's like...
Candy floss.
Yes.
Like cotton candy.
Yes. And so it's like, is this supposed to be... Like, they could have just been like, hey, he's a Disney Imagineer, and he, owns this mansion, and he hosts these wild... Like, there was no explanation of why he has these skills to build a Disney-esque mansion, haunted mansion, and then host a dinner party where would be a crime. And then there was like, what is even his connection to these characters?
They just were all really hyped to have a good weekend at this rich person's house and hopefully have a good time. And oh no, their weekends are ruined because it turns out to be a murder house where they're all trying to be murdered.
And again, the weekend being ruined was like the punchline of the whole movie. Peter Sellers is, rolling away in his car with his actual Asian American actor son.
Which
Wild. Because
to have them be the sort of main driving force of the movie.
Yeah.
Still.
And let me point out that the actor who played his son was a phenomenal actor who, again, was one of the 3 characters in this movie I actually liked.
And got to 2.
And so it was like, okay, why was he not cast as the lead? Because that guy's got the charisma. He's got the chutzpah. That's like, I'm actually enjoying watching him. And every time Peter Sellers talks, I want to take him and throw him into the sun. It was just like, what are you doing, folks?
So Peter Sellers' character, we're going to touch on him now because I'm deciding this is what's happening. Peter Sellers' character is a stereotype of a Chinese man, but the stereotype is so far into stereotype that it's just caricature to the point where you're like, no one alive is this way. This depiction of a person is only in film as the most racist depiction. In Breakfast at Tiffany's, you get the same exact teeth, clothing, eye makeup. I don't know why is it this way in this many movies, and there's literally an Asian American actor next to him who acted his ass off because he wasn't like looking daggers at Peter Sellers in every shot. Like, how was he not?
Yeah.
It's one of the weirdest, wildest. And again, I was like holding my head, closing my eyes during parts of the movies, just sort of trying to take it in without having to visually take it in. Peter Sellers comes out of their room in a like traditional Chinese robe, red garb situation. And Aaron and I both like recoiled from our chairs.
Yeah.
Like just so bad.
As if on cue, when we saw him, there was an audible no from both of us because it was so hard to look at.
It was really bad. So I'm gonna switch over to
I'd still like to hit on it.
Okay, keep going.
Because it is, you have this movie that was made in the 70s, and it's made almost with the feel of a movie in the 50s. You have characters who talk and kind of sound like they're these like, hey, 1950s detectives, and they're hard-boiled.
Peter Falk, this is just my voice.
Yeah, I got a gun. And you're like, all right, this movie's kind of like paying homage to that. And so at first you're like, all right, is Peter Sellers almost doing satire of these white actors who did Yellowface?
No.
That's 100% the answer, is just no.
You can ask the question and you can posit as many details as you want to, as like, oh, wow, Peter Sellers really stole the show as this racist depiction of this guy. But Peter Sellers did other sort of brown face. You know, he played some like Indian guy in a different film. And this was just a thing Peter Sellers was raring to do in the 70s. And so it's a full-on no. There isn't an homage there. Why would you do an homage to something that is blatantly like a minstrel show? Like you're not doing... It's not funny to do Yellowface in this... in any context, but like, why this way specifically? Because again, I'm thinking about Tropic Thunder, and it always comes up to Tropic Thunder, where Robert Downey Jr. legitimately did blackface, and I still think it's funny. and I don't know. I'm not gonna defend myself in this way, but I do think that one's funny, and I don't think it's right. But it's funny. That one's funny.
And in an almost apropos follow-up to watching Blazing Saddles last week, where we had a movie that, you know, is looking at the satire of films that were made, you know, in the 70s, depicting a time in the 1800s where both those times were super fucking racist, and then, you know, pointing it out blatantly and being like, yo, this sucked, and it's hard to look at.
The core of Blazing Saddles is how much it sucks.
Yes.
For Sheriff Bart.
Yes.
To live.
And just be in that world, and for any black person or person of a different ethnicity to be at that time, or, you know, from
the Chinese people on the railroad
Yeah.
also get fucking shit canned in that movie too. Yeah.
From any time between the 1800s and the 1970s. And folks, I'm not saying that things were solved in the 1970s. I'm just saying that's when the movie came out.
That's when the movie came out.
So I'm not saying racism is solved. Don't clip this. What I'm saying is
the 70s figured it out.
the movie depicts and shows that being a person of any different type of ethnicity besides Anglo-Saxon white at the times between the 1800s and the 1970s sucked. And it did such a good job of showing that. This movie came in and
with
had
comedy.
Yes.
With jokes.
And this movie had a chance to come in and, you know, could have just straight up had Peter Sellers playing a white man who could have just been like, hey, I've got an Asian son. I am not actually Asian. I would never play an Asian person on camera because that sucks.
It would be so funny if he, as a white dude, as Peter Sellers, like no accent, no fake teeth, no makeup, still wore the outfit and was like, yeah, I'm from China. Like, hey, it's me, Peter Sellers. I'm from China. This is my Japanese adopted son. And just went along the movie and everyone still called him like Mr. Wang and like stuff. They could still do the Wang jokes that were never funny. And I would possibly stomach that character slightly more.
Yeah, folks, there's so many things they could have done, but what they did, instead of doing some kind of satire or just like verbal, you know, enunciation of being like, this sucks in movies, was they just had Peter Sellers in yellowface playing a character who was just a horrible depiction of a person of Asian heritage. And it was just like,
It's so bad.
it was uncalled for. And the fact that the movie didn't address it or do anything to address it is unexcusable. And you know what movie doesn't do that? Clue, baby! So instantly Clue is better than this movie.
More about this movie. Maybe we'll touch more on Clue a little bit, but also we just got to watch Clue for the show.
Yeah.
We just got to watch Clue, especially after watching this thing.
Oh.
Let's talk a little bit more about this thing right after these messages.
Hey, Jimmy. Do you know any other actresses that might have been in both movies?
Oh, could it be just flipping through my little...
Let me look through my notes here real quick.
Is it Eileen Brennan?
Let's see. My notes say I didn't do any prep for this.
Clue?
I thought you said she was.
She was also in Clue.
Yeah.
Miss Peacock.
Yeah. And just, boy, she's the third out of third enjoyable character.
We got the 3.
We got the 3.
Oh boy. That's it. Out of a stellar cast. Don't get me wrong. I think all the actors in this. Maggie Smith is in this movie, and guess who I didn't like in this movie? Maggie Smith or David Niven. They both. I don't care.
Yeah.
Maggie Smith said one funny thing near the end, and I was like, oh man, she's great. I love her. She's a Miss McGonagall or whoever in the Harry Potters. She's a great actress, but. Who boy do I not care about her in this movie or her husband or anybody else besides the 3 characters we've listed. We got Peter Falk, we got the Japanese son, and we've got Eileen Brennan's character. And that's it, folks. There's literally no one else to care about because they're all trash. Although the bit right in the beginning with the glass, not even in a house,
Yeah.
he's drinking a martini on the side of the road.
Yeah, David Niven, they're on the side of the road. They're making some call to the house that they're going to.
Possibly the only funny joke.
But like it wasn't even a joke. It was just that he had a martini in a full ass martini glass.
It was a goofy circumstance.
Yeah, and it was funny to me because I was like, oh yes, this is about driving martini glass. And again, that could have been, maybe I'm dumb for not realizing the satire of like, oh, this is pointing out that people in the 50s drank a whole bunch and that they drank so much they would have driving martini glasses. If that's the whole joke and that's how far you're getting into it and into the weeds.
That's the thing. You have to take it back one where you're like, people drank a lot and still do while driving. So much so that in this movie, they decided to depict it as this man bringing possibly a full bar cart on the, he's got the shaker back then.
But see, they should have.
Yes, if there is an extension to the joke that you have, if they don't show it, I would rather, and maybe I'm dumb again, maybe I would rather not spend the movie thinking about how funny the joke could be. I'd rather just be shown he opens the door and ice falls out and he like fucking puts it back in the ice bin. I don't know. There's no joke there if you just show it.
Yeah.
It's the concept of a joke. There's like, could be funny. Where's it going? And then nowhere.
Yeah. He arrives at the house. He tells the butler, hey, grab my bags. Butler grabs the bags. They fall open. Martini glasses. Shakers fall out. The butler goes over to the next bags, opens those. They fall out. More martini glasses, more shakers.
More martini. You just hear breaking glass. The butler goes out to the car. You hear, sorry, sir. Something like that. Make a joke, but to just have the breath of a joke. He has a glass.
Yeah.
He's drinking.
Alec Guinness, he's here.
Where's the joke?
Yeah.
This wasn't a comedy to me. I actively was like seeing what was supposed to be a written bit, like a joke or a punchline or something.
Oh.
Or a funny sound effect.
And the fact that the movie did a just egregious cinematic sin of setting up the joke and then taking a full ass pause to point it out. And I'm talking about any time where like the painting's eyes would move and a person's eyes would there. And then the people would stop, look at it and go, wow, that's weird. And you're like, don't point it out.
The worst part was when multiple characters have already like figured this out and pointed at stuff and it's been in multiple shots. And then somebody looks up and is like, oh, well, look up there. It's a Truman, a Capote. And then they're all like, what? Like, honestly. And then the camera's up there and everyone's looking. And you're just like, yo, guys, hey, we saw it. We all saw it.
Yeah.
The first time when you did it in one painting. We get that the paintings and the moose heads are doing this thing.
What are we doing here?
They get it. What are we doing here? Yeah. So yeah, did it make me feel stupid because I was like, where's the joke? Yes, it made me feel like dumb because I was like,
where's the joke?
Nothing is funny.
Yeah.
Nothing is funny. Nothing made me guffaw. I didn't get a chortle. I got like a point and like a observative.
It could just
they're
be...
trying to do something here.
It could be that you have this just bad writing in the movie mixed in with bad chemistry from all the actors.
Except Peter Falk.
Yes.
And Eileen Brennan.
Yes. And
literally the best. I just would want to see them in movies.
Yeah.
Like together.
They were very enjoyable, but everybody else was delivering lines to each other and it was just like falling flat. And you have at one point where, again, that Cook shows up and, it's established that she's deaf and mute. And then she's talking to Alec Guinness's character who's blind. And they're like trying to like do a funny thing there where one can't see what the other person's doing and she can't hear what he's saying. And it's just like, this isn't working, folks. And
there wasn't a joke there, and there wasn't so much of a joke there that they tried to do it again when he goes back in the kitchen and is like mad at her for not making the dinner. And yet still not funny. The joke remains.
Yeah.
In terms of it wasn't funny the first time. She's still just sitting there, which is like in itself part of the joke because she was told to sit there. Technically, she was ushered in that direction.
Yeah.
But because she actively doesn't do anything, you're like, okay, well, cool. Glad she's here. Hope she has a good time at this fun event.
Yeah. And so it's just like, the writing's bad. The writing's bad, folks. And the writing, if you're looking for a good mystery movie where, let's look at Knives Out, let's look at Glass Onion, let's look at Death on the Nile, let's look at Murder on the Orient Express, where like you have some kind of mystery. Again, I don't know if this movie was trying to like do some kind of satire of mystery novels where sometimes the ending feels undeserved, but
oh, it 100% was. I mean, Capote's little diatribe at the end is fully this does this, you do this does this genre does this, and we're not doing that. Wink, 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 wink. Wink, 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 wink. And then his eyeballs roll out of his fucking head because
he was rolling his eyes too hard. I don't know. Yeah.
Layers upon layers of this fucking horrible, horrible writing that, again, if you're gonna subvert it, don't just do it. Because then at the end, the subversion is that Capote knew that they were all gonna fucking guess their whole thing.
So I think a good contrary to this is Knives Out, where you had Rian Johnson, who watched tons of murder mysteries. He read tons of murder mystery novels, and he said, hey, these are great, but there's something they fail at, and it's that sometimes they have red herrings that don't work, and sometimes they have, unsatisfying conclusions that result in somebody coming in at the very end and you being like, that's the person who did it, or, evidence that comes out of nowhere. And so he felt unsatisfied by the murder mystery genre. And so he said, I'm going to write a just fantastic murder mystery.
A good one.
A great one. Where
and it's funny.
And it does a perfect example of subverting expectations where you're like, oh, it has none of those tropes and has great writing and doesn't have a man wearing yellow face.
And it's hysterical.
Yes. So
I love Knives Out. We haven't done it, but I love Knives Out.
I love it. And so that's how you take a movie and say, hey, there's things wrong with this genre, and I'm going to do my movie different. And this movie didn't do that. It had scenes where characters literally break down everybody's motivation, saying, hey, here's why you would kill this person. Here's how you're related to them. Here's how you did this. Here's how you did that. And
that's what it was. It was a scapegoat type of writing where instead of actually writing some depth to any of the characters, you just say, well, all of the other characters know everything about all the other characters.
But there's no reason for how they know these things. Because,
they're just real smart guys.
Let's look at a movie that's 10 times worse than this, Clue, where they literally... Well, as they're going about, they pace out the, clues and the mystery, and they'll, say, wait, Mrs. Peacock, how did you know this detail about this person? Oh, it's found out that you know this person because you live in the same place as them. Or, oh, so-and-so, how do you know them? Oh, it's because you work together at the same place. And then it's like...
The candlestick.
Yeah, and so there's these little things that pop out that give them clues to how they know things. Or there's actual evidence of like blackmail or things like that where they say, here are these pictures of you doing this thing. And not just...
Oh my God, I would have loved in this movie if somebody went through like a desk and found something, some evidence of something.
Yeah.
But they just had it in their noggins to expound upon and be boring.
Yeah. So, yeah. Jimmy, what do you think? Would you recommend this movie to people? Would you say, hey...
I'm not there yet, Aaron. I'm not done.
Oh, perfect. Let's get back into it.
You know who's coming back? It's fucking Peter Sellers. Because he, honestly, regardless of any other person in here, whenever he spoke, it was distracting. So that when people were possibly explaining, again, not showing, it was a tell, don't show. It should have been a show, don't tell. But this movie is a lot of tell and don't show because they thought that their writing was so clever and witty and good that they didn't have to actually make an interesting looking or sounding movie. Because when they're telling and not showing, Peter Sellers comes in and says, "Oh, I am a Chinese man," and I hear his voice and I sort of like I like look up and I see him saying something and I go, "What's that? What is happening right now?" And then anything else sort of white noises to just like, "Oh, Peter Sellers distracting me. I actively can't focus."
I'm going to fill in some of that white noise for you because I specifically remember a line that I wanted to put my hand through the computer and punch Truman Capote in the face for.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So
Do it in his voice.
there's several points where Peter Sellers' character is talking in his fake Chinese accent and he's not using pronouns. And so every time he misses a he or a thee, Truman Capote comes in and he goes, "He, thee, make sure," and he keeps filling in Peter Sellers' pronouns. And it gets to the point where Peter Sellers does it for like a fourth or fifth time, and Truman Capote goes, "Thee, use your goddamn pronouns!" And it's like, okay, that line was not funny because you're not saying, "I hate the trope of people who," like, again.
No. What is he saying?
It wasn't them acknowledging the trope of poorly used, horribly, objectified Asian American, Asian influenced accents. It was literally them saying, "Use your."
We hate that we wrote this character this way.
Yeah, or literally
Change
just like,
it. You wrote the character.
Here's your manner of speaking. There's nothing you can do about it. We're going to point out this deficiency that you have and make you feel bad about it. And it was so shitty to do to a character that was written that way and didn't have to be that way. They could have literally just had a look at the Asian son in this movie. Did he have a poorly worded dialogue, accent?
No, he went to USC.
He was a normal ass man.
That man's the fucking most normal guy in the whole movie, and I love him.
And they could have
he's the second guy.
They could have had Peter Sellers fired from the set day zero. They could have, whoever hired Peter Sellers, they fire that person, and then they fire Peter Sellers, and they say, "Hey, you know what? We're putting the son in his role. We're getting the kid from Indiana Jones. We're putting him in the son's role. It's going to be way better."
You got Ke-Huy Quan in there? Hell yeah. This movie would be way better.
I know. And so, okay.
I don't think he was alive yet in the
76.
He was a baby. Maybe he was a young baby.
I think Temple of Doom was just a couple years later, wasn't it?
No way.
Yeah.
No way. 80s? Had to be like mid-80s.
He would have been like 4. It still would have worked. It would have been way better. Anyway, ditch the accents and then don't put Truman Capote in there with a line saying, "Here's how Asian Americans talk," and I hate it because that's what you're doing. And that's fucking racist. That's not comedy. That's not any bit of satire.
No,
that is literally just some
like,
racist.
We wrote a racist Asian depiction of a character, and we hate it.
Yeah, and it wasn't a 1950s. Haha. Oh, this is how things are in the 50s. It was literally just, hey, this is a movie from the 70s. This is a line that somebody wrote in the 70s. This is somebody who greenlit it, and this is just how things were in the 70s. And it fucking sucks. It sucks, folks.
Okay. See, I needed this because I had forgotten the whole Moose moves when he's like, "My pronouns," which is a funny line in its like in the today's context is very funny, but it's not a good line. It's not funny. It didn't make me laugh. And yeah, it extending it to the context of like he's mad at it's fucked up.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I brought this back up because now, Aaron, definitively, hey, would you say to someone, watch or not watch? What do you think?
I would say take Peter Sellers, throw him into the sun, take Truman Capote, punch him in the face for delivering that line and not saying that he wouldn't. I would say take this movie and watch it. No, I'm kidding. Fuck that. Don't watch this movie, folks. Don't watch this movie. Don't watch this movie. Oh my Lord, don't watch this movie.
Give me a heart attack. I thought I was going to have to just throw my fucking computer out the window right now.
It's not even a matter of this movie is a waste of your life and I don't want you to waste an hour and a half of your time. It's not even a matter of here's all the cinema sins. Watch it for the cinema sins. It's not bad enjoyable. No. It is literally just a series of stupid, poorly written bits that had a stupid kind of plot line wedged in there. And just the racism sucked. And to say, folks, I love all of you for listening to this podcast. I love every one of you listeners out there.
Aaron's muscles are rippling out of his shirt right now. He has like a Vince McMahon sort of vibe going on right now.
Like I'm about to shatter both of my calves. To say that this movie is 10 times better than Clue. Than Clue.
Clue! Oh. The Clue.
To
the Clue
say
movie.
That Alec Guinness's character is better than the Rocky Horror Picture Show star as a butler. Ooh! Ooh! I'm furious right now.
I also say don't watch it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't really have any big grandiose things to say about it because I really just actively, I think, if I wasn't watching this with Aaron and like, you know, we sort of keep each other up for these sort of things, I would have fallen asleep during this movie, hands down. If somebody told me, hey, come on down the couch and watch this movie with me. It's one of my childhood favorites. And then they like grab their eyes and do fucking racist ass shit. So I'm not friends with those people. I don't know.
Yeah,
they aren't down on my couch inviting me to watch this movie right now. So I don't know. You got to reevaluate a comment about this movie in regards to Clue. Have you seen Clue? Do you know about Clue, the movie Clue? Or it's based on the board game, and the board game is very structured.
Yeah.
And so the movie takes that structure and plays with it, and you get some amazing bits in that movie. And I haven't seen it in a while, but guess what? It's vibrant. It's alive. The backdrop of the house and the characters in Clue, based on color, is like the perfect... Knives Out straight up was like, we have Clue costume. This one... visually sometimes a mess.
Yeah.
Eileen Brennan, love her in this movie. That dress the rental dress she comes in, I'm like, should have rented a different dress maybe. So it's so bad.
I love watching a movie through and seeing it all the way through to the end because, you know, you never know when the second half of a movie is going to come in and just totally, you know, blow the first half away. And so I'm
blow your mind in some way.
I'm often
with like a crazy ending.
Yeah, I'm often a proponent for watching a movie through in its entirety. And this is a movie that I sat down because we had a, you know, person who said, hey, watch this movie. It's 10 times funnier than Clue. And I thank you for writing it. And folks, if you're out there and you want us to watch a movie, yeah, if you want us to watch a movie, put it in the comments. We'll watch it. That's why we sat down to watch this movie. Don't let this episode
dissuade you.
Yeah. No, that's why we sat down to watch this movie. And if it had not been for this comment, I would have shut it off at minute 15 when the man moved the eyes and the mouth of that dog painting and put his tongue through the dog. And then that one person looked at it and said, huh, that's weird. I would have shut it off there because I said, I am not enjoying this. And then I would have put on Clue. And then we would have done an episode on Clue. And it would have been, well, you'll just have to wait until we do Clue. So.
Okay. Speaking of plot holes,
like holes in a painting.
I actually have questions about the movie because the Poirot character has the butler uniform on and says, "Don't ask," and everyone says, "Well, we want to ask," and he says, "Well, don't." And I don't really know if he entered a portal or something, or there's a lot. Well, that's the thing. There's unanswered questions that I never need to know the answer to, but they assist in terms of confusing me in a way that made me say, well, why did that happen? And why is that way? And why do these things happen here? And so there were so many questions compounding on questions on questions on questions. And usually in a whodunit, you find out sort of who did it, and it's satisfying to some degree. I would say there's a reveal in some way, and you don't get any of the satisfaction in this movie. It just feels like a big, like, fuck you for watching this movie. And I instead say, no, fuck you for making this movie. Because, like, what? I'm not supposed to try and have, like, a positive experience watching this movie? No, I feel bad because it just, and that's the thing. There are aspects about even Glass Onion where Rian Johnson is saying, you know, like, these parts of whodunits and mysteries, like, can be boring. And there's Hitchcock films that are specifically a subversion of, like, an entirety of, like, a MacGuffin, you know, like a concept of a whodunit or a mystery or a murder or something like that. And this one just is like, we're trying to do a comedy. And the key word there is trying, because it just was so fucking not funny. And to say it's 10 times funnier than Clue, I just say no.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm just objectively saying it's not funny. And if you find it funny subjectively, that's great. But that is a warped subjective that I've got.
Again, folks, this whole podcast is based off opinion. You know, that's why we don't do a rating system. That's why we don't say, hey, this movie, Murder by Death, is a 0 out of 10. It should
9 out of 10, baby.
No, we don't do a rating system because we don't want to look at a movie and objectively break down everything. We love breaking down why movies suck, but we honestly just want to give you our opinion on it and tell you what we think about it. And if you're a person out there who thinks, hey, the movie Murder by Death is great and I love Yellowface, okay, that's not great for you. Fuck you. If you love Yellowface.
It's like, wait. Why did you have the second part of that comment? That's weird.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? What the hell?
Yeah.
Shit, man.
So, point being, love the movies you're going to love. We're going to hate the movies we're going to hate. This movie is one of them.
Imagine if we had a crisis mode on this. It honestly, I think, would end the podcast.
Yes.
But speaking of ending the podcast, we're going to end this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to Too Much Popcorn. Just don't watch the movie. That's the final thing. Make the popcorn, make the second batch of popcorn, and go watch Clue or something else. I don't know. Something else that isn't this one. I can't recommend Clue yet because we haven't done an episode on it, but hey, maybe it's a good movie.
Maybe it is.
Could be 10 times less funny than this movie, but maybe it's still a good movie. I don't know.
Yeah, give me $5 and we'll fight about it. You know? So, and again, I want to encourage y'all out there, if you have a movie you like, let us know. And say, hey,
I want to know.
Yeah, say, get a Clue. Here's $5. You guys suck at your podcast, and I think I could do it better. And we'll say, hey, we'll listen to your movie, and you know, we'll give you an objective.
Oh no! Shut it down. He said objective.
Oh, we forgot. No, but regardless of you giving us $5,
we'll give you our opinions on it.
You didn't even give us $5. Where's my $5?
Hey, I said $5 to watch Clue. We didn't watch Clue.
True. When we watch Clue,
we watch this one. We will watch Clue if you give us $5. But we'll watch Clue anyways, because.
And if you have another movie you want us to watch, let us know. We'll watch it, and then we should tell other people whether they should watch it or not.
Look, this comment made us watch this movie.
That's what this whole podcast is about, is getting people to watch movies or not watch movies. And hopefully getting them to watch the right movies where Yellowface doesn't fucking happen.
Can you even call it Yellowface? It's just bad, right? It's just bad.
It's bad.
But thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Eat that popcorn, because we sure did. I threw it up, and then I ate it back up again because I'm a sick little monster. So thank you so much for listening, and have a good one. We'll see you next time for more Movie Madness. Bye.
Bye.